That only works if Bitcoin doesn't drop. That's a very significantly big danger indeed for Bitcoin, potentially. The 40 billion bet. Yeah, you've probably heard about Michael Saylor, who's betting everything on Bitcoin, but he's not just betting on Bitcoin. If his bet goes wrong, the whole ecosystem goes down the drain. And I'm going to prove that to you in this video, including what he actually plans to do. Also, to put a positive spin on things, we have the drawing for the Advent calendar, a new door that's being opened. So wow, we have a lot planned. So I'm going to take a sip of coffee and we'll see each other after the intro. There have been many prophets in this ecosystem like SBF, who was also completely praised. If you don't remember what happened with FTX in the end, that's a different story. But I just want to say, at this point, I don't want to drag him into any comparison. I just want to say there are always a lot of people in this cosmos who are being celebrated. In the end, though, there can be a big bill to pay that harms the entire crypto space, or things could actually go really well. And we're going to take a look at that now. Here's just a tiny little note. There's a new official second Uptrend Telegram group called Uptrend Trading. What's different here now? So on one hand, no one can write in here except me so that no important news gets missed, and I provide you with coin tips, trading results, and sometimes even from passive trading, for example. Here now in the form of trading bots, and again, the long-term forecast is XRP, which we looked at in detail yesterday, and special bonuses that I'm negotiating with projects, exchanges, etc. So if you want to participate in that as well, check out the description, there's a link for that. We looked at it in detail yesterday, and special bonuses that I'm negotiating with projects, exchanges, etc. So if you want to participate in that as well, check out the description, there's the link for it. But now let's move on directly to Michael. So here's a post from 2013, back when it was still on Twitter. Well, back then the tones were quite different, but he clearly stated at the Bitcoin Prague this year that it was one of his biggest mistakes. Now, the dear man has also had to take some criticism in the past because he suddenly stood up and, contrary to what he had said before, said something like, hey, anyone who manages their own crypto in any way is an idiot. What? So that's just absolute nonsense. We're talking about crypto here, we're talking about being your own bank, and now suddenly we hear these kinds of things. Well, you can also find that somewhere in the article right here, and it's about the plans. It came out there might be a Bitcoin bank in the works. So basically, MicroStrategy is being completely transformed into a bank. But what exactly is this Bitcoin bank all about? Yeah, that's definitely an interesting approach, something you wouldn't typically see from traditional banks. So traditionally, you go to the bank, take out a loan, pay interest on it, and then you get fiat money. Now, one might think at this point, sure, no fiat money is being issued, it's all about Bitcoin. No, not quite. Because instead of lending out Bitcoin like a traditional bank does with fiat money, Saylor sees the main opportunity in capital market arbitrage. What is this again? So it means a strategic use of debt to buy Bitcoin, which then generates profits. Yeah, dear friends, that's all nice and well, but it only works if Bitcoin goes up in the right direction. Oh yeah, it can only go up in the right direction, but it can't fall. Right now, Michael Saylor's and MicroStrategy's bet is definitely paying off. Because if we take a look here, this is a very, very current article we've seen almost over the last 10 years, which also means that all other assets like stocks, gold, and so on are completely lagging behind. So let me show you a quick comparison here. If we look at the state of things from a year ago, we can see what the Nvidia stock has done and how MicroStrategy has grown in comparison. 2001, yeah, there is definitely a certain gap in between, considering that one could say that Nvidia's quarterly numbers are crucial for how the stock market and in turn crypto will develop. Even when you take a look at the current inflows of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, so by the way, we're talking about the most successful ETF of all time, and that's within just a few months. And here are the inflows. It's absolutely pretty crazy. An incredible amount of millions of dollars are in there now. An unbelievable amount of money. Truly astonishing. That's really wild. Here you can also take a quick look at the market capitalization of MicroStrategy, comparing 1998 to 2024. That means everything is mainly determined, let's say, at the beginning of January 2024 so far. Oh, that was like a rocket. But what is MicroStrategy's strategy actually? Well, that's basically the unrestrained buying of Bitcoin, if you will. So we're currently talking about more than 1% of the total circulating supply of Bitcoin. At the time of this writing, that was about $44.6 billion. If we go a bit further down here, we're talking about almost 40 purchases MicroStrategy has made over the past period. Up here is the start, starting on September 14th, 2020. September, made in 2020. And there you can see what price levels we're talking about. So you could roughly calculate where the liquidation point is or when it might go into the red. But you can't really figure that out completely because there's another forecast here when they might go into the red. But you can't really calculate that out completely because there's another forecast here. A very clear plan that MicroStrategy is pursuing. I'll get to that in a moment. But before we get to the actual strategy, let's quickly go over a success record. Yes, so MicroStrategy is now listed in the NASDAQ 100, and who would have thought it? We're also talking about the most successful US stock this year, and that's all thanks to Bitcoin. Now, there are a few opposing voices here, including the long-standing critic, if you will. Peter Schiff is well known for being the biggest Bitcoin, no, not a fan, but a hater, of course. You probably already know that. In this case, where I rarely agree with him, I have to say he's not entirely wrong, because it's quite realistic that if this bet goes south, it could be, as he puts it, a bloodbath. But what exactly does this plan, which was announced in October, entail? Set in 2024? Well, it's pretty simple. $21 billion comes from equity, $21 billion from debt, which will be invested. So for those who paid a bit of attention in math, that brings us to nearly $42 billion, and the goal is to simply double that. How does that work in detail? Well, MicroStrategy borrows money and buys Bitcoin with it, and that pretty much says it all. See you in the next one. No, of course not. You know me, I wouldn't send you off to the evening like that. However, if you've enjoyed the video so far, feel free to give it a like, and you can also leave a comment. I've also noticed that most of the people watching the videos haven't subscribed yet. So you rascal, if you count yourself among them, then feel free to catch up. So now let's explain the model a bit more complex. MicroStrategy is using equity on one side, meaning through the sale of stock, and on the other side, it's using debt by issuing so-called convertible bonds, and that's at an interest rate of 0. Now the big question is, why would anyone do that? And by the way, in case you didn't know, Allianz Insurance in Germany is actually the largest holder of these convertible bonds. I wonder if that might not end up going wrong. So BlackRock & Co., they are also in the game, but with significantly smaller positions. If the stock of MicroStrategy has risen above a certain point by a set date, let's say 2030 as an example, then the investor can convert this bond into a share of MicroStrategy. So far, so good. However, if the stock has dropped, then the investor gets their initial capital back. And that's also the big danger, because in the end, we're talking about a leveraged bet. That means the stock of MicroStrategy will rise much more strongly than the Bitcoin price will. However, it will also fall much more sharply if the Bitcoin price unfortunately goes in the wrong direction. And that's the personal risk that I see. So maybe you see it differently. Feel free to write in the comments. When we look at the current market phase, hey, everything's all good. Everyone is shouting for an all-time high. For the next one from Bitcoin, as long as Bitcoin keeps rising, everything's great. Only if Bitcoin goes into a bear market and no one knows when, it will really get critical for MicroStrategy. That has happened in the past too, where the liquidation level was somewhere around, I think, 12 or 13K, and things were already looking bad then. But now, because more and more has been bought with the rising prices. The average purchase price has also gone up, along with the bonds, and you can't really say exactly when any bond will be redeemed. But in the event that it gets sold at a loss, MicroStrategy is forced to sell Bitcoin. And that obviously has a much, much stronger negative effect, because when Bitcoin is sold, that price drops again, the stock goes down even further, and MicroStrategy has to sell even more Bitcoin in the end. So that would likely trigger a certain negative trend that can't really be stopped. And that's an extremely significantly big danger for Bitcoin, at least in my own personal opinion. So let's discuss this, but so we don't leave the video feeling all gray and dark, let's switch gears and do the giveaway drawing. Oh dear, it's about to get even darker. Yeah, exactly, the absolute disaster that awaits us with Mika. You can really tell that there have been some voices coming in, and it's really bad what's going on and what's coming our way. Now it's almost 2,000 clicks. So feel free to check out the video. It's very confusing. I don't want to say much more at this point. We're definitely going to draw a lucky winner now so we can end on a positive note. Well, that's quite fitting today. We've been masters of disaster with glasses for a long time. I'm still too new to say anything about Mika. Yes, indeed, this thing with glasses is a topic. Personally, I don't find Mika completely terrible because on one hand, it does have the advantage of flushing more scams out of the market, which is going to happen anyway. That's really quite thin, but all right, all further discussions will be in the video accordingly. Now, however, we're getting to, well, not the drawing, the new giveaway. And here you see a freshly printed envelope. By the way, if you're looking for a cool exchange to trade on, I can recommend BitMEX. There's also a 25 trading bonus if you use the link below. And to participate in the giveaway, you also need to create an account, and then let's take a look. We have 170 here. So that means you can win 170 BitMEX tokens. How can you win? So first, create an account at BitMEX, secure your 25 bonus, and then leave a comment down below. What's your opinion on that? What do you see in MicroStrategy's bet? Is it good? Is it bad? Let's discuss that. If the exchange is supposed to continue, join our Telegram group. It's a bit easier that way. See you in the next video. Until then, all the best.